The Guardians made their first move to address an area of need. If you're asking who is Connor Brogdon or why him, tune in to find out what the Guardians see.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, Guardians fans? Thanks for hanging out with us for the next half hour on Locked On Guardians, the only daily podcast that covers your team every day, from the majors, the minors, the draft, and everything in between. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. I'm Justin Lada, one of your two co-hosts for the last 3 years and counting, with my friend and co-host Jeff Ellis. I've spent 18 years covering the Guardians minor league system as a prospect writer and editor.
And as you mentioned, I'm Jeff Ellis. I've been here since Lock On expanded into baseball. Before that, I was a national writer at Scout in 24/7, focused on prospects and the draft. I want to take a moment and thank you for tuning in to today's show, or making today's episode your first listen today and every day, wherever it is that you podcast. A big shout out to all of our everydayers out there. I was trying to pull up a specific person who commented. I'll give him a shout out after one of our other segments because I closed my tab, as I am wont to do. But I've got a shout out coming, so we will get to that person later on in the show today.
Yes, it was someone who was a Spotify listener who wanted to make sure he got a comment in. So the free agent market, it is moving. And when will the trade market start? And who are the Guardians connected to? It's Trade Talk Thursday. So we'll get into that later on today's show. One of the Guardians' trade targets is getting a lot of interest. We're going to debate if he's no longer attainable to Cleveland later in today's show. But we start today's episode talking about the Guardians and what they are thinking signing reliever Connor Brogdon. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to get right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com. Place your NFL live bets all season long. All right, so a lot of people, I think, are wondering who is Connor Brogdon, why him, and they're looking at surface level stats, which, is fair because those are the stats that tell you what happened. They tell you the results. They don't tell you how it happened. They tell you what results happened. So that's why a lot of people rely on things like ERA and wins and losses, I guess, and all those sorts of things. Wins and losses, we know, especially for a reliever, are garbage. But those are the things that tell you what happened. They don't tell you how they happened or why they happened, but they tell you what happened. But Connor Brogdon, a little background here, 31 years old. He was, I believe, a 10th round pick. I don't remember what year it was. I don't have it pulled up.
2017, because he was because he went to Sam Clark's college as Bo Mills, and I know it's exactly 10 years between them. So I know it was 2017. He was a 10th rounder in 2017 from Lewis and Clark State College.
Okay, so he'll be 31 in January. The Guardians are giving him, according to Zach Meisel, a $900,000 major league deal. He does have 2 years of club control left, so he'll make $900,000 if he finishes the season with Cleveland in 2026, and then they'll have the ability to go to arbitration with him or settle for 2027 if things go well. The thing is, he hasn't had a good season in the majors since 2022, and there are some things around that season that weren't sustainable, as Jeff will kind of tell you. What I will say as far as this signing goes is this is a beyond ERA in conventional stats signing. And I know some people are going to say, well, if you have to squint really hard to figure out the value here, I totally get what you're saying. And I think we should all acknowledge, too,
talking about how
this is not exactly a move that's going to replace the closer who will not be named. This is not a guy you're expecting to be a high leverage arm or someone who's going to make a massive difference in the bullpen, at least not right now. This is more of a depth piece for the bullpen, a guy that you're probably going to roll out in the 6th inning of a game, when you're probably losing. So it's a specific role. I think the question here is, like, why is he getting a major league deal? So he went to Los Angeles to play with the Angels last year, or Anaheim, let's just call it Anaheim. And he got a minor league deal for them. Wasn't very good on the surface, and he passed through waivers twice last season. So it's really interesting that he got a major league deal, which I'm guessing that means Cleveland heard other teams were interested in him as a major league deal, and that's why they had to do what they did, I guess, to get him. The things you can look at least, I don't want to say squint to see value, but to maybe understand where the Guardians are coming from here. It's a lot of things that teams are measuring these days. Saris has been a big proponent of this, of not measuring by ERA, and other kind of stuff. It's and fielding independent pitching, which is strikeouts, walks, home runs, other stuff. Didn't like him last year either, but he's always been liked by Stuff Plus models. Stuff Plus models are basically like measuring velo, release point, movement, spin rate, all those kind of things. And just like anything else, 100 is average, lower is worse, higher is better. Stuff Plus models have always liked Connor Brogdon. He's always had an above average fastball by Stuff Plus. He's always had a way above average changeup. It's his best pitch. And his cutter has always been like mediocre, like in the high 90s. Throws hard. So those things, and he has good extension on his delivery. He's not as far out as Cade Smith, but he's pretty close. So those are all the things Cleveland likes for him. And those things are fine to me on a very low risk deal like this, for a guy like who's barely making above the league minimum, and you're getting an extra year of control if things go well. So there's really not a lot of risk for them here, but I see the upside. My only thing is just like dedicating a 40-man spot to him, a 26-man spot, because he's out of options. And for a guy who passed through waivers last year twice and went to Anaheim on a minor league deal. So it's kind of odd that that's the way it went for them. But, I could see the pieces they're looking at here. I think what you're really asking here for Cleveland is to take these traits. And that's what a lot of teams are interested in these days is traits. It's a lot of the Stuff Plus. Like you like the stuff, you like the extension, like the velo. Can you improve the cutter? Can you help him with control? Is he healthy too? He's had plantar fasciitis issues in the past. So like if you're working on all those things, you could to bring something together to be a valuable depth reliever in that bullpen as a 6-inning guy, it makes sense.
It's interesting how you talk about the Stuff Plus, because for as good as the stuff's been, we also see him having negative values on a lot of his pitches last year still over on Savant. So it's kind of that whole, you can see beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Maybe they think there's something they can fix. Maybe there's something more to it. While I'll be very honest with everyone, I'm very nonplussed by this addition. It doesn't make a ton of sense to me, but at the same time, I have to be really honest. I had this same exact feeling when they signed Ben Lively. I'm like, why bother? What's the point? And that's a lifesaver for this team. It honestly was. I had a similar feeling when they added Daniel De Los Santos, and that was another great one. Like, bottom line, as much as like I look at it and I see a guy who really hasn't been good since 2022, and some of his value in 2022 was more a little bit of luck based. The bottom line has to be this team has done a really good job rehabilitating pitchers. Matt Festa, we saw more under the hood with Matt Festa. Like that's why you and I were more bullish on that.
Even some more results.
Yeah, there was more data there to back it up. But it's like even Kobe Allard, they got a career best year out of him. Like that is the best he has ever looked. Like they do have a good, and the reason he's not here is because Kobe Allard in arbitration, I think, was going to get 1.2. So this is still cheaper than that. Like the bottom line here is they're really good at identifying traits for guys who have pitched at this level. And they're really good about knowing how and what to do. Maybe they do help him with that cutter that's been essentially a terrible pitch. He's got the changeup that he can spin that one well. The fastball, in the changeup, I believe last year was the pitch he threw the most. Like he started to shift over. And the fastball, it's got velocity, it's got extension, but doesn't have anything else. So maybe they think there's something they can do. I wouldn't be shocked if, like, by the end of the year, he ends up being a useful part of this team, because this is the type of pitcher that they excel at. This is that guy on the fringes. You go back beyond the guys I mentioned, the Manships, the Oteros, the Matt Albers, like guys that they can target some traits and work on and seem to, have a career year or two here. So as much as I sit back and I can look at the data, I can look at numbers, and I can see some of why they like him. Doesn't move me as much. What moves me is this team is really good at identifying fringe players and knowing how to help them. Like this is better than typically your Junis or Seawald. The Junis work great just because like they've had less success sometimes with the mid-tier reliever than they have the low-tier reliever.
Yes, this is the kind of signing Cleveland has excelled with a little bit more. And I think there's a little more ceiling here, possibly just because of the velo, the extension, and the changeup, if they can work on the cutter. The only question really is a major league spot for him. I think it's interesting. All right, we'll give some final thoughts on Connor Brogdon, and is one of the Guardians' most talked about trade candidates so far this offseason starting to slip out of reach. We will discuss next. The World Cup is coming back to North America for the first time since 1994 with 48 teams for the first time ever. So it's going to be a massive tournament. Let's be honest, getting tickets, that's going to be a really hard part. That's why the Game Time app is super clutch, and it's finally giving fans like you and I the real advantage when it comes to snagging seats to any event. With Game Time, you can track price drops in real time. You can get alerts with great seats open. You can buy tickets the moment they're on the app. Puts the power back into your hands, and it makes going to the World Cup actually a possibility for you instead of impossible. It's a great place to find good deals at the last second. I've used Game Time before to buy concert tickets. I've seen Jonas Brothers' Not By Choice, Maroon 5 this year. I've used them to buy Cavs tickets in the past too. Great for Christmas gifts. Take the guesswork out of buying World Cup tickets. Every match, concert, event with Game Time. If you're new to Game Time, download the app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONMLB. That's going to get you $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. But again, download the app, make an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket. Go Game Time. As always, we appreciate all you hanging out with us, talking Guardians baseball with us, even in the doldrums of winter. We thank you for making us part of your daily routine. I know a lot of people have shared their Spotify wrap with us, so
it's always awesome.
Yes, like, I can't believe that people are willing to listen to our voices and our opinions.
Speaking of our, I did my favorite thing for a lot of people. I interrupted you there. Logan Mandelic 2307 is the person I wanted to give the shout out to. So yeah, that's and he mentioned being a Spotifyer, so I figured now is the time to jump in and do that. So thank you. That's one of our everydayers out there. We appreciate you all.
Yes, appreciate you, and an even bigger thank you for helping make Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. Keep up with us all off season long, talking Guardians. Hit the bell on YouTube. You get notifications for reaction videos to signings like Connor Brogdon, hopefully bigger ones than that one eventually. And you'll get notified of all the latest episodes like this one. And you can auto-download, as a lot of people have on their audio platforms, to share with us. That's the best way to keep the show in the feed. It's one of the best ways to support the show as well, as the auto-downloads, no matter what's going on. So you can always catch up if you miss a show, and you keep us in the regular rotation. So, yeah, to wrap up things on a little bit on Connor Brogdon, it can't be the only bullpen move, obviously. And doing this for $900,000 shouldn't preclude them from making another bullpen move. So I think that's important to note too. We're not talking about a guy who's going to transform the bullpen. This is going to be a guy they're hoping to fix.
There's one other thing we forgot to talk about with this, and I actually forgot to mention it before the show. There's an interesting wrinkle with this, which is kind of like what the Mets did with Richard Lovelady, where they gave him more money. So a player like Brogdon, if they do decide to have him go through waivers, it's historically less likely to be claimed. This gives them kind of a back and forth ability too. So this, while you may not be what people want to hear, someone like Zach Kent, other guys like that who might be coming off roster, this kind of gives them some of those options back and gives them a little more overall depth, which is always a need. So sorry to interrupt, but we do have to mention that this could also be, they gave him the right amount of money where, listen, if he's your bonus bullpen arm, that's great for this team. That gives them depth they need. So, but yeah, it might preclude teams taking a risk on claiming him because they don't want to get stuck with the bag, even though it's a little bit that can sometimes stop a lot of teams who just don't want to pay more than the minimum for a guy who might only be there for a week or so.
That is a good point, because Brogdon does have 3 years of experience. So if he gets waived, he doesn't have options. So if he does get waived, he could elect to be a free agent instead of go to the minor leagues. However, you have to have 5 years of experience or service time to claim all that money. So if he were to elect free agency, when he got waived, he would forfeit all of his money and the rest of the owed money to him.
Which he'd never do.
Exactly. So you're right. That makes him more likely to go through waivers unclaimed, even though he doesn't have any options. So that is a good point to that. And I mean, he'll make it to spring training on the roster, I'm pretty sure. We'll see what happens the rest of the offseason. But Jeff, one of the names we've talked about ad nauseum on the show is Brendan Donovan. We know the Cardinals are open for business, and they say they are not eager to trade Brendan Donovan, but would have to be blown away for an offer they can't refuse. But everybody keeps saying that the interest is so high that it's almost too likely to happen, even if they keep saying they don't want to trade him and they have to blown away, which is all posturing statements anyway. But the report now is that the Mariners are interested in Brendan Donovan. The Pirates are interested. The Astros are interested. The Royals, obviously the Guardians, and the Dodgers and Yankees were connected to him during the trade deadline last year. You seem to think this is going to push Cleveland out of reach for Brendan Donovan.
Yeah, sorry, I just got my headphones ripped out of my ears there. But yeah, so here's the main takeaways for me of Brendan Donovan is one, his flexibility means he really works for any team, right? Like there's not a team that couldn't use an upgrade either in the outfield or at second base.
Or short or third. Yeah.
I really would not want to look at him long term as a shortstop, but I think like specifically like those two positions, between the outfield and everything else, you can find a spot for him. But here's my concern, which is I feel like Ubaldo Jimenez is the last guy that they traded for that there was multiple teams and a lot of heat around. They tend to get, Franmil Reyes was a little bit out of nowhere when they added him. Lane Thomas was an expectation. They have not gone where, Sean Murphy they tried for in a scrum and multiple times were rebuffed. So, we know that they stick a hard price. There is no organization that probably prospects hugs as much as them. So I got to be honest, like, I think there's a better chance maybe with a Nootbaar than there is with a Donovan, because I don't think when you have this many teams, it is going to drive up the price. And I think, they're never going to trade for the hot name. And the fact that like us and Zach and other places have like talked about him as like this ideal Cleveland guy means there's no way it's going to happen. We've never all been in agreement, and then that trade happens, right? Like there's never been that player that I can think of in recent memory where all like this guy is the fit. So they always tend to go off the beaten path. There tends to be another place to go, and they're not going to pay the high price. So I am bullish on the idea of it. I am just not bullish on it.
Execution.
Yes, of it occurring. It's not to say they won't make a move. I still think they will, but when there's this many teams, and the Mariners arguably have one of the best farm systems, if not best in baseball, by just like how many prospects they have in the top 100. You don't want to get in bidding wars with a team like that. They're going to lose, and it's going to whoever wins is going to hurt them.
Yeah, and the Dodgers obviously have a great farm system.
Yeah.
I mean, the Pirates have a good farm system in terms of young players, but I don't know about depth there because obviously you're not going to trade, Connor Griffin or any of those guys at the top for him. The Astros farm system's not good anymore.
No,
the Royals farm system I don't think is great.
It's not.
So I think, like, I agree with what you're saying. Like, yes, based on precedent, this does seem like a situation like a Murphy or an Olsen where they might get pushed out because of the whole amount of interest of the team. That being said,
I do feel like Fermin their last trade with the Cardinals.
I thought Jose Fermin was a minor league free agent signing.
No, they traded him for cash, I thought.
Okay. Yeah, it's been a while for sure. I mean, I went back and looked and it was like that or Mercado.
Yeah, I was gonna say that was my number 2 was Mercado.
Yeah, so it's been a little bit for sure. But I do feel like there is pressure to add a hitter that's going to help the lineup no matter what position, or I know people are going to say it's got to be right-handed hitter. This team just needs to upgrade an offensive spot anywhere they can, and that could be second base of the outfield with Brendan Donovan. And let's be honest, free agency is not going to be their friend in this market. There's not, outside of like the Austin Hayeses or bringing back Elaine Thomas, free agency is going to be a hard path for them to do it. They have the prospects to move. And does having Rob Serfolio as the assistant GM in St. Louis, does that change anything? I don't know. Like, obviously, he's the assistant GM to Chaim Bloom. So, like, is he going to tell him that he likes certain prospects in the Guardian system? Could that help them? I don't know. That wasn't the case, obviously, with Murphy and Olsen in Oakland. And the big thing here is your pieces just have to be – they have to like your players better than they like the Mariners, Pirates, Astros, Royals. Now, the Mariners have a better system. The Dodgers have a better system. The rest of the names in this list do not have a better system than Cleveland. But we know teams aren't really looking at rankings and depth. They're looking at players, and they're looking at, we like this trait better than this trait. We like this player better than this player. So they just have to like your players better than the other players that are being offered. So I still think there's a possibility It just depends on what St. Louis is looking for in this deal. And it depends on what everybody else is offering if they can beat it, which I know is what you're saying is they likely won't. But all you have to do is like a certain player. I mean, that's what happened to Cleveland with the Murphy trade, right?
As a Stewie Ruiz.
Yes. Not a good player, but the Athletics liked him better. They probably regret that trade now, but that's what I'm saying. So maybe those other teams offer better players. Maybe the Cardinals say, well, we like Parker Messick way better than this Mariners pitching prospect. I don't know. I'm just saying, like that could be how it goes. So I'm not giving up hope on Brendan Donovan.
I am. I'm 100%. I would be shocked. I would be absolutely shocked if it happened right now. They just don't get the bidding wars, and it's bidding war phase.
They do like to set their value, and they do like to not have to come out of that value. So that will make it interesting. And Rob Cerfolio knows that. So that could be a mark against them in negotiations. So let us know in the comments what you think, whether or not the Guardians going to be in or out on Donovan. And if you're holding on to hope, it is Trade Talk Thursday. We've got more trades to talk about. Who has the highest percentage chance of being traded this offseason? Who doesn't? And who does make sense for the Guardians, according to insiders? We'll talk about that next. NFL Sundays can move very fast. One big play, and suddenly every game turns on a dime. That's exactly what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place live bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight is a moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift. So if you're watching a receiver go on a run, not the Browns, defense tightens up. We know that could be the Browns, or momentum flips after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump in to the moment. Cavs lost on Wednesday. Things are not going well. I'd be careful with them right now. We do have Thursday night football with the Cowboys getting 3 from the Lions. The Browns are still getting 3.5 from the Titans. And you'll be shocked, but Connor Brogdon did not increase the Guardians' odds to win the American League, still plus 1,200. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com. Place your live NFL bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. No matter how much snow is on the ground, no matter what the temperature is, we are always here for you. We're like Joey, Chandler, and Ross that way. If you need more Guardians baseball talk to warm you up during the winter, you can always follow Jeff at Jeff MLB Draft everywhere, myself at JL_baseball, and JL Baseball on multiple social media platforms. And you can check out the Locked On Guardians Insiders Club, where we text daily with the community, drop news, rumors, ask for mailbag questions, as we'll do tomorrow, and monthly video chats, which I've also got a schedule too. And we do provide some bonus content from time to time too. Join subtext.com/LockedOnGuardians. And hey, insiders, we've got an exciting announcement coming your way next week for even more access to the show in the community. So stay tuned for that announcement coming next week. So ESPN had an article yesterday. It was, I believe, Jeff Passett and Kylie McDaniel.
Yes.
And it was ranking the trade candidates this offseason and giving him a percentage chance of likelihood of being traded. Let's start with Steven Kwan. They gave him a 25% chance to be traded, but they also said executives think will stay with the Guardians this winter. So I'm not really sure why it was that high, but they say the fits were the Giants, the Pirates, the Mets, the Phillies, the Tigers, and the Astros. Is there anybody of those teams that like makes sense to you? Like, even if there was a chance to trade him? They didn't mention the Dodgers, which is odd, but yeah. Do any of those teams make sense in terms of a match?
So what was that list again? A little bit slower.
Giants, Pirates.
Giants, no. Pirates, no. Both teams need to add hitting.
Mets,
Giants, Mets, no. What are you going to get? Mark Vientos? I mean, there's no
right.
Philly doesn't have any. Because that's
Tigers. Why would they trade him to the Tigers?
They're not going to trade the Tigers. That's what I thought I heard. Right. That's why I wanted you to say it's lower. And wait, did they say the Tigers in there? That's the dumbest thing.
The
Astros have nothing.
Yeah,
it's a really bad minor league system in Houston. Like it's really bad.
I also don't understand like why they would say the Astros and they're looking for pitching. They're looking to trade away hitting. So why would they?
Yeah, they already have too many outfielders.
Yeah, I didn't understand
that doesn't make sense to me. The Astros are already struggling with having too many outfielders and having a need for pitching. Here's the thing: the article write up, because I did read it, was like, he's probably not getting traded, but hey, we should talk about him just in case. Like
25% based on that. Yeah, that's so weird.
They had percentages all over the place, but to me, like he was included as a we should talk about it because people talk about it so much. Like, I don't think he's going to get traded. Like, I would be more surprised by a Steven Kwan trade unless he is traded for like a
Kettle Marte.
no, like maybe not even a Brendan Donovan because they're so similar. But like you and I talked about, like if there's a way where you get trade for power, like if you get a similar talent, like
Cleveland's trying to add hitting, not subtract.
Yeah,
hitting.
like if Taylor Ward had 2 years left with Cleveland needing a power hitter and the Angels needing someone who's left-handed hitting, I could have seen that swap, for instance.
Right.
Like 2 year for 2 year.
Ward had 1 year left. Yeah.
Yes. So
Brendan Donovan was also on that list too. Just a note. He was given a 75% chance to be traded, which I agree with. The Guardians were listed, but so were the Dodgers, the Mariners, the Yankees, the Red Sox, the Pirates, and the Royals. So that just, again, reaffirms that the market's hot for him.
Can I just say right now, I haven't had a chance to bring this up any other show. I like how the Pirates everywhere, and I think there's going to be tinfoil hat time. I think with the potential of work stoppage coming up, I think Major League Baseball is pushing all their teams. A lockout. With the possibility of the lockout, Major League Baseball is going to really push teams to get close to that $100 million area, kind of make all the spending get higher to the floor to give them like, hey, we're already doing a spending floor, basically. Like they're having anyone below like that barrier where the Players Association could file a grievance is not going to be allowed this year. So I think we're going to see more teams go out and try to push themselves up to where Cleveland's been. And
fake spending like the Athletics did last year was
who by the way the best FIP on their team amongst their starters for all the struggles. That's how bad their pitching is. But the thing too with the Pirates is they also have a GM who's kind of failed in his job since he's been there. So
their owners failed too. Even
he has, but like their development has not got. They've had a lot of high picks not work out. And now it looks like maybe they've had some that have, but like they rightfully should be in on some of these deals. Donovan's interesting, but it comes down to he can play just about anywhere, so he makes sense.
Everyone's fit,
And the other name, no second baseman in free agency that I can think of outside of like Bo Bichette, who's shortstop, second base, pick your position. Unless you're at the top end of the spectrum, you're not getting him. So Donovan is a guy who just makes sense to everyone.
The other name on the list was CJ Abrams, and he was connected to the Guardians on this list. They gave him a 35% chance to be traded. We've had some insiders text like what would be interested in him. I don't see this one at all. Like there's nothing in his profile. There's one offensive area of his profile that it doesn't move the needle, but it's like you can see where it comes from. He pulls the ball in the air very well. That's why he can hit 18, 19 home runs a year, even though he has 0 exit velocity, 0
hard hit, 0
rate,
bat speed.
Doesn't barrel. Right. No. Nothing on his nothing there.
Bottom line
data wise, except for that. But he's also a god awful defender at shortstop.
Yeah,
he has to move to center field. And you don't even know if center field's going to work for him. And also, just to point this out, this is a guy who got suspended last year from the
This is what I say. This is the bottom line point with it.
Yes. He was suspended from the team or disciplined because he spent all night in a casino. Do you really think that's the kind of player the Guardians are interested in?
They can't. Like CJ Abrams is literally someone they cannot add because of that. Like they can't go out and add a guy who was like tired and late to a game because he spent all night gambling in a casino. Like this team, after what they did last year, take CJ Abrams off the list. That's not even a possibility. They're not going to get anywhere near that.
At least, I mean, he was doing something legal, but they're not going to be in 10 feet of that. Yes.
No,
they're not going to be in 10 feet of that.
They wouldn't touch him with a 10-foot pole. It's that season, right?
Yeah.
The Grinch.
Yes. They are also connected to Brandon Lowe in this article. They gave him a 25% chance to be traded. I've been a fan of him in the past, but he's got awful platoon splits. He's not a good defender. He always gets hurt. He makes $11.5 million for 1 year. I think I've kind of gone out on Brandon Lowe at this point. And again, you're going to see similar themes here. Who are the fits? The Pirates, the Marlins, the Padres, the Giants, the Royals, the Guardians, and the Mariners. Same teams.
Because he doesn't make a lot of money. Like let's be very honest about it too. Like
I think he makes too much money for his flaws.
I mean, I don't know. Here's the thing. Like he played 134 games. He's played over 100 games last 3 years. Played 134 games last year. His WRC plus is 116, 123, 114. Like, I'm still okay. It's a weird profile because, you know, he never walks. He strikes out a lot. But he
Not the
does
things
get,
they're looking for.
he gets into power though. And they do
He
need to
does.
find ways to get into some power. I was just kind of curious to look at his savant page. His savant page is crazy because he's a terrible defender. He can't run.
Yeah.
He
Right.
whips, he
Move him
Ks, he
around.
chases. But here's the thing: he's what we've talked about. He has bat speed, hard hit, and barrel, and you can
He's a
live.
one-trick pony. He's a one-trick pony.
That's not a one-trick pony. That is a profile to success. If you have bat speed and barreling, you're going to be successful as a hitter, and that's why he's a successful hitter.
I'm more interested in Donovan and Kettle. Like, I don't want to move Travis Pisano to the outfield for Brandon Lowe. Like, you want Pisano to be up this year. If you acquire Brandon Lowe, that's more complicated because with Brendan Donovan, you can move him to another position. You can bring
Lau's a DH. If you're acquiring Lowe, you got to drop him at DH. He was so bad.
I don't see that working either because you still have Kyle Manzardo and Kafis and Fry and I thought it was interesting that they also didn't mention Marte for Cleveland. Like, they gave him a 40% chance of being traded.
I don't think Cleveland would do that contract. I gotta be real honest. I don't think they'd have interest in a contract that has 3 years of 27 million plus. Like, the way this team operates, because you combine when him and Jose are together, that's half your payroll.
He's my white whale.
It just comes down to the money. Like, him and Jose is half your payroll.
Yeah.
In those
other
years,
names,
and I don't think they can have two guys having half the payroll type of situation. So I think Marte might be a white whale, but I think he is as imaginary as a white whale is.
Some other names that were on the list that weren't linked to Cleveland: Jaron Duran. They gave him a 50% chance to be traded. Not a fit for Cleveland because, again, they're looking for high-end pitching. Cleveland's not going to trade that.
Yeah.
Same for Weiler Abreu. Yandy Diaz was there, but I don't see how that fits Cleveland right now. And Wilson Contreras is on there. He has the no-trade clause. And I think he also has some character concerns in the past. The Astros didn't want him in the past because of some character issues.
It was just the owner. It was just the owner who didn't.
Yeah. But I mean, I don't know. He's been a bit of a goof in the past. And then real quickly before we get out of here, Jesús Sánchez wasn't on the list. The Astros say they're getting interest in him. Their GM said they're open to inquiries on him. To me, the only way you do that deal is if it's just Logan Allen for Sanchez straight up, because they're looking for pitching, and that's as much as I would give up for Sanchez.
Honestly, I think you should get, after the regression he had last year, I think you should get Sanchez and a piece. You should get at least a flyer. I'd be all over that. More years of control, but I'd be all about that as well. Buy low seems perfect time.
Yeah, so I keep an eye on that name if they're getting interest in him. See if Cleveland jumps in on that. There's no teams listed there, but it sounds like multiple teams are interested. So same thing as Donovan, but less of a known commodity, I guess, and a few more warts. So tomorrow's show, we mailbag Friday. So insiders give us some questions for the mailbag. We're looking forward to hearing what you guys want to talk about ahead of the winter meetings happening next week. So I hope you enjoyed this talk on Trade Talk Thursday and Connor Brogdon. And make sure we get those mailbag questions.
Yep. As always, thank you for joining us. Remember to rate and review. It helps. And go Guardians.